I am back with another endometriosis video, and I am guessing if you have clicked on this video, I'm guessing you've already seen my previous video. If not, then I will link it in the description and I'll link it up here somewhere in the cards as well. That is basically my endometriosis story up until I went to my ultrasound scan, I think. Now I'm going to do from having my ultrasound scan, I then went on to having my gynae appointment and then had my second laparoscopy. So if you'd like to kind of know my backstory and all my symptoms from before that point, then head over to that video and then come back over to this video and everything will make sense. And I just want to make sure I get everything out there just so I'm not missing anything, because I want this video to obviously help people who may be going through the same thing and you just kind of feel like you need more answers than what the GP is giving you. I've kind of made a little list just so I don't miss anything. I'm going to talk about my diagnosis, I'm going to talk about my second laparoscopy, I'm also going to touch upon the painkillers that I've been on and tips for laparoscopy as well, just in case that helps any of you who haven't had a laparoscopy yet and maybe you need some tips kind of thing. And also, if you've already been diagnosed with endometriosis, don't click off this video because I'm sure you can relate to a lot of the things that I'm saying as well, and we can share tips with each other on how we cope with things. And yeah, I just want this video to be a place where if you need any kind of support or anything like that, then I am literally here. So if you want to message me, feel free to message me on any of my social medias and I will have a chat with you. This is how I have struck up a few online friendships from my previous video, so don't feel like you can't message me because I'm totally approachable and I'd love to chat with you. Anyway, let's go on with the video. Moving on from my last video, was I was speaking about the last thing was my ultrasound scan. Then I had my gynae appointment on the 23rd of May this year. She was kind of going through the options. She went through all of my symptoms. She did an internal examination, which wasn't very nice. Because of this, I've had quite a lot of internal examinations anyway, but this one, for some reason, normally I feel really relaxed and the other person makes me feel relaxed, but for some reason the gynecologist that I had this time, my mum was there, the gynecologist, and there was another nurse who was trying to calm me down, and for some reason the gynecologist that I had wasn't very relaxing to be there with, and I didn't really have a very good experience. She literally, like, sorry to be graphic, she put her like fingers inside me to like feel, to see my cervix, that kind of thing, and she was like, oh my god, you're really tense, and I was like, yeah, you've got your fingers inside my vagina, obviously I'm gonna be tense, I'm feeling tense, I'm not very relaxed right now. And she just her attitude did not make me feel relaxed at all. But with that said, I don't want to put you off at all, because I've had probably about 6 or 7 examinations like this before, and every single one of those previously was absolutely fine and the person made me feel so relaxed. I just think that I didn't have a very understanding gynecologist for that appointment. And also, I think it was because of just my anxiety was just really bad at the time. Anyway, shut up, Imogen, get on with it. So yeah, so she did an internal examination, went through all my symptoms. I took my mum there with me, and basically me and my mum fully prepared for the appointment, which I highly recommend. If you're going for one of these appointments, I'd 100% take somebody with you, because if you have like anxiety like me, or even if you're just nervous, that can get the better of you in these appointments, and then you might not say everything that you want to say, and you might just have a mind block, which I have in these appointments. So take a notepad, just slap myself in the face, take a notepad and write some notes that you definitely want to get across in your appointment. And don't feel rushed either. I know the NHS is under so much pressure, but your health is the most important, and we don't pay our taxes for no reason. Like, we pay our taxes for the NHS, and I completely get that the NHS is under so much stress and pressure at the moment, but at the end of the day, your time slot is your time slot, and you need to get everything across so don't feel rushed whatsoever. So she went through all of my symptoms, and by the end of the appointment, I also said within the appointment that my auntie and my cousin and my great auntie also had endometriosis as well. So by the end of the appointment, she'd written everything down that I'd spoke about. The first thing she offered was pro-stap injections. Now, because I'm a bit of like a freak when it comes to my health, so like anything that I have or anything that I think I might have, I will research the shit out of it. So luckily I'd already researched the pro-stap injections before this appointment, even though I knew like no one even mentioned pro-stap injections. It's just because I just researched and I knew that was one of the things that they give you as a coping mechanism, because it's not, endometriosis isn't curable. So she offered me pro-stap injections, which I'd already researched before. So the pro-stap injections are basically, while you're on them, the endometriosis is starved because you're not on your periods, you're going through like the temporary menopause, so you get all the menopausal symptoms. And I already knew, I'd already made up my mind before I even spoke to my gynecologist that I didn't want to go through with that option. Possibly later on down the line, but I didn't even have an official diagnosis at this point, so I couldn't understand why she was offering me that before a laparoscopy, when a laparoscopy is the only way of diagnosing endometriosis. Well, it's not the only way, like sometimes, the odd occasion, you can see endometriosis. You might see signs of it in a scan, but it's very rare that you'll be able to diagnose it any other way other than a laparoscopy. So I was going in there in my head thinking I want a laparoscopy because I want an official diagnosis to start off with, and the NHS waiting times are ridiculous. Like, so what is the point in me having that, and then I might have to have a laparoscopy again anyway later on down the line. So it's just the time scales were just pushing it back. So basically I kind of said to her, I said, no, I don't want to have the pro-stap injections, I want to go for the laparoscopy. She gave me like an information pack, and she was like, right, okay, I'll put you on the waiting list, and she was like, it's probably going to be about 6 to 8 months waiting list for the laparoscopy. So I kind of already had that in my head, but my mum was literally like, Imogen has been going through this for years and she's already had a laparoscopy. She was categorically told that she didn't have endometriosis, and now she's got to wait another 6 months in pain for this. And obviously as a mum you can understand why she was so annoyed, but at the end of the day the gynecologist can't control that. Like, that's the NHS, that's the government that needs to sort their shit out. But that's for another video. My gynecologist sent a letter to my doctor basically explaining everything, saying that it's suspected endometriosis. We're going to do a diagnostic laparoscopy and excision of endometriosis if there is any endometriosis found. She said I would have to have a pre-op, so basically you have to go through all of the questions, and also you have to have blood tests as well before. I think that's with the pre-op. So they do a wee sample and they do blood tests, and they do like a 40-minute consultation with a nurse, and she basically goes through your whole medical history. And I had my pre-op about 4 months, 5 months before my actual operation. The words pre-op kind of sounds like they're preparing for you to have your operation, which I didn't get until I spoke to my stepmom who works in a hospital, and she was like, no, it's literally just to check your blood, like what blood type you are, and just make sure they've got all the information, so it's not actually directly associated with the type of operation that you're having, if that makes sense. So I had that about 2 weeks after my gynae appointment, and then I just basically had to sit tight and wait. So May, June went past and my periods just started getting worse and worse and worse. I basically, in that time I moved apartments, so I actually moved out of the catchment area from my doctor's surgery, so I had to move doctor's surgery in the process of this, which was a nightmare because I obviously, as you can imagine, I had to move over all of my hospital notes and doctor's notes to my new surgery. So my new surgery didn't have a clue what was going on, obviously, because I was a new patient there. It was really quite messy. My symptoms gradually got worse and worse. The time between having like flare-ups got shorter and shorter. So I would have a couple of months before my gynae appointment, I had really bad periods, like horrendous periods, and my ovulation period started getting really, really bad as well, just as bad as my period. It felt like I was on my period when I was ovulating, just like exhausted all the time. So then June went past, July went past, August went past. August, the beginning of August, it was my birthday on the 2nd of August, and my boyfriend took me to Berlin. While I was in Berlin, on the 3rd of August, I think it was, or the 2nd, oh no, I think it might have been on my birthday or the next day after my birthday, I got a call and they left me a voicemail. It was the hospital, and they basically said, "Hi Imogen, we've had a cancellation, can you come in for your operation next week?" Which was like, I think it was the week after, which was the 13th of August. And it's probably better that it's in a week, because I don't have to like think about it for like weeks on end that I'm having this operation. So I was like, yeah, okay, go for it. I'll take that appointment. So May, June, July, August. So actually it was 4 months I had to wait. By the way, I am based in Manchester, so this is like Manchester, north of England, waiting times for the NHS. So she told me, I think it was 6 to 8 months, and I actually waited 4 months. But I think that was because of the cancellation. So I was really lucky to get that appointment. The painkillers that I was on right up until my operation, I had to keep on going back to the doctors and asking for stronger painkillers, because it just, my tolerance was obviously building against these drugs, and all the drugs that I was taking just wasn't touching the pain. And so I was taking like codridamol, and I was taking I tried naproxen, I tried mefenamic acid and tranexamic acid, I think it is. I will link all of the things down below if that's helpful, and people might be able to relate to what drugs that I was prescribed. I didn't get on with the naproxen. Naproxen really gave me really, really bad vaginal dryness. It was like to the point where it was painful. Hell no. So I came off that, and I was getting joint pain as well. I don't know if anyone else gets this, but I seem to be getting really, really sensitive to certain things that I'm taking, that they make me have really bad joint pain. At this point I was kept on upping the doses of things that I was on, and I was taking codeine probably throughout every period, and a couple of days when I was ovulating as well, around my ovulation time. And when I was in Berlin, I came on my period. The day after my birthday I came on my period, and it was the first day of my period, and I was in, I can't even tell you, the pain I was in was horrendous. And I obviously was in a hotel room. I had to stay in bed like the whole day after my birthday, and I was hungover as well, so it was like double whammy, and I was literally in agony. I like tried everything. I like filled up massive, you know, the big bottles of water, 2 or 3 of those up with hot water from the bath, and tried to use them makeshift hot water bottles, because I was in a hotel room in Germany. Like, I didn't have any of my home comforts, so it was like the worst thing ever to be in a different country and going through this horrendous pain. Ran a bath, stayed in the bath, got out of the bath because I couldn't cope, got back in the bath, topped the bath up with water, went to bed, rolling around in the bed in pain, rolling around on the floor in pain, like absolutely horrendous. And I could not get comfortable at all. Like, it was just, and at this point I was like on codeine. I think I took ibuprofen for the inflammation, and I was just literally dosed up in so many different painkillers, and nothing was working. Nothing was working, nothing was touching the sides. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my laparoscopy. So as it was my second laparoscopy, I kind of already knew what to expect because I'd had that first one. But then also this was like a diagnostic laparoscopy, whereas the other one, they kind of was going in blind. Like this one, they were looking directly for endometriosis. Whereas the first one, they didn't have a clue what was wrong with me. They took my appendix out, thought I had appendicitis, and just didn't know what was going on. So this time round, they kind of had more of an idea of what was going to happen. I had to stop eating, was it 6 a.m? I think it was 6 a.m. that morning of the operation. I stopped eating, stopped drinking by 10 a.m. and I was in for 11 a.m. I think. I basically went in there with my boyfriend. He was going to be the one who was going to be there and then come home. He ended up just staying at the hospital even though we was there for hours. I didn't know what time my operation was going to be. All I knew was I was like 3rd or 4th on the list. That I could see like a whiteboard on the ward that I was on, and I was like 3rd or 4th on the list. So I ended up getting prepped for my op. First of all, my gynecologist who was leading the operation came with her assistant and talked me through the operation, talked me through what they were going to do, talked me through the options if it wasn't endometriosis, that I would have to go back to the GP and maybe work out another route because it might not be endometriosis, I might not find anything. By the way, I got treated at Salford Royal, and I don't know whether, I'm not going to say any like doctors' names just because I'm not really sure about putting that on the internet. If you kind of want to know, private message me and I'll discuss it, but just to be like safe. Basically I was treated at Salford Royal for my second laparoscopy. It was different from my first one. I was treated at North Manchester General, the one in Crumpsall, but this one was Salford Royal. And yeah, so when my gynecologist came to see me on the ward, my boyfriend wasn't there. He had to stay off the ward because it was a female only ward, although I did see a few guys walking about, so I'm not sure why my boyfriend wasn't allowed, but he was basically waiting in the day surgery waiting area. He wasn't allowed to come in. So I basically was with the gynecologist. She talked me through what she was going to do, that they were going to blow up my tummy with the gas and go in, make an incision in my tummy button and the 2 sides near my ovaries, and also above, oh no, that was the first one. Yeah, so it was the 3 spots. If I've got any photos, I'll kind of overlay them just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And then they said they blow your stomach up so it's massive, and then they can kind of see with the keyhole surgery, they see with like the camera that they insert, from what I gather. Yeah, so she said basically if it's safe to do so, if they do find endometriosis, what they'll do is excise it and laser it off. But that's only if it's safe to do so. So if there's any damage that she thinks that might occur, they won't take it off basically. And also if something that she spots it is like detrimental to your like ovaries, like an ovary needs removing or something like that, then they will stitch you back up, speak to you, and then maybe go back in at a later date. They won't just do that all at the same time, if that makes sense. So she kind of went through that, and then she also went through the aftercare of what would happen if I did have endometriosis. What are the options? Like she mentioned the stap injections again. She mentioned contraceptive pill, the coil. Oh, and I forgot to mention, God, I'm sorry this is all over the place. I was also supposed to be, right up until that point, I was supposed to have the Mirena coil fitted. Now, this is supposed to be a really good option for if you do have your laparoscopy and they find endometriosis, then they pop the coil in, because then obviously you're asleep, so you won't feel it when they're putting it in. It's an ideal scenario really, because you wake up and you'll already have a coil fitted inside you. And I was really unsure about this. I did loads of research into it, and my mum's had the coil, she was fine with it. Like my cousins tried it, she didn't get on with it. Like it's a completely individual thing, and I knew that I would have to trial and error with like endometriosis with most things. It's down to the individual, so you have to trial and error a lot of things to get to what kind of works for you anyway. I knew that, but right at the last moment, I was like, I don't, after doing a lot of research, I didn't really want it, because one of the main reasons is I'm really kind of against putting hormones into your body anyway, which isn't ideal, because that's how they treat endometriosis on the NHS. It's hormone based. If you, whatever they give you is going to be hormone based. So it's not ideal that I feel like that anyway. I had quite a lot of bad experiences on different contraceptive pills in the past with my mood swings. I've suffered from depression and anxiety before, and they've not helped with those. So I'm really like anxious about what I put in my body, basically. And so with that, and also with the fact that they're putting in something into your body that you have to physically go to the GP to get removed. It's not like if you have the contraceptive pill and if you start having problems, like, granted, you need to give something a chance to work inside your body, but if something is really you're not getting on with it, like a contraceptive pill or something else, then you can stop taking it. You have control, and that's what was scaring me, the fact that I wasn't in control of this thing that was in my body. And I've heard a lot of people say that they've had issues with the coil, gone to the GP, and then the GP has refused to take it out because they don't agree with the fact that you think that the symptoms are getting, the coil is making it worse, or you're having really bad symptoms to do with your depression or anxiety or anything like that, and the GP just outright refuses to take it out. Now, obviously, that is not every single person, and not all GPs are going to be like that. And I just want to stress that, like, if you are having the coil, don't take what I'm saying like for word kind of thing, because that's not the case with everybody. I've just heard a few people say that, and that just makes me feel really anxious that I'm putting something in my body that I don't have control over taking out. It just scares me. So last minute I said to my gynecologist, I've changed my mind, I don't want the coil anymore. And she was like, right, okay, that's fine, like, it's totally up to you, like, if obviously you've made the decision not to go with it, that's fine, we can just discuss other options if you have endometriosis afterwards. I'll go through like the things that I would advise you to take with you to the hospital as well. They do actually tell you this, but I'll just kind of, just so you're prepared. I basically took a dressing gown, some pyjamas, even though I knew I was in there for day surgery, something like might go not wrong, but you might need to stay in there for an extra day, or they might need to watch you for a little bit longer, so you never kind of know if you might need some extra clothes or that kind of thing. So I took some pyjamas, a dressing gown, some extra underwear. I also took sanitary towels just in case, because they do say after your operation you might like... Yeah. Cool. Okay, bye. They say after the operation that you might bleed, so you just have to take that just in case. What else did I take? I took a teddy bear because obviously I'm 25 going on 15. And what else did I take? I took a book because I was waiting when I was on the ward, I was waiting for hours before I actually had my operation. I took all my medication, they tell you that as well, and they give you like a green bag to put all your medication in. And you know what else I would advise? I would advise you to take some peppermint tea, because the sooner you start drinking peppermint tea after your laparoscopy, after you come out, the better, because the gas pain is excruciating. Like, I can't even tell you, like, from someone who's experienced really bad pain from my endometriosis, the gas pain is something else. Like, it's a completely different pain to the endometriosis. The gas pain is like, the only way I can describe it is, you know when you have a trapped nerve, or like you move your shoulder like in the morning and you feel like there's air trapped, and when you breathe it makes it worse, and it's so sharp. Like, that is the only way I can describe it. It's like that, but all the time, and you move a tiny little bit and it's really, really painful. So I would suggest literally buying 4 or 5 boxes of peppermint tea, because that is what you will be drinking from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. You'll want it on tap, because that's the only thing that seemed to like help me with it. What else did, so I would suggest taking peppermint tea with you with the hospital, because I'm sure that they will give you some hot water to put in your peppermint tea afterwards, and even mention it to the nurse, like, because when you come out of your operation you are high as a kite, so you probably won't even remember that you need to be having peppermint tea. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to the anaesthetist. So my anaesthetist was so nice. He was really nice, and he made me feel at ease, he made me feel relaxed, and because he came to see me on the ward and he could see that I was just not relaxed at all. He basically went through everything. He said that I'll basically give you the whatever the thing's called, you know, where you put your drip in and then they put the anaesthetic through your vein, I think it is. Sorry that I'm not being technically correct on this. But and then they get the mask and put the mask on and ask you to count from 10 to 1. But I can never remember getting past 9, because you're like 10, 9. That's it. It just wiped you out. And honestly, like, people have really bad anxiety about this, but seriously, like, they literally do this 5, 6, 7 times a day, every single day. Like, they know what they're doing. You're in safe hands. So although it seems scary, the fact that they're putting you under, it's fine. Like, honestly, it's fine. They know what they're doing. They've got everything down to a T. So I just want you to be kind of reassured that everything will be fine. And if anything goes wrong, it's literally like the tiniest of chance, like literally the tiniest. It just doesn't, basically he said to me, he was like, it just doesn't happen. You're not going to wake up. You're not going to wake up in the middle of the operation. It's just not going to happen. So my anaesthetist made me feel really relaxed, and basically just told me everything that was going to happen, that it was going to put me under, and then the gynecologist would come in and do her stuff. So he made me feel at ease. He was like, right, okay, I'll come back to you when it's time for your turn, basically. So got on my gown, got all prepared, had my like wrist thing fitted, and yeah, then I got called in about 3, half 3. One of the nurses came and got me. One of the anaesthetist assistant took me into this little room, and they basically injected me. He started telling me stories about music and how this anaesthetist goes to the Warehouse Project in Manchester, and I was just like, what? You go to the Warehouse Project in Manchester? I love the Warehouse Project. And he was just making me feel really at ease, and like he was saying how he's into techno music, and this guy was like a middle-aged guy who had 3 kids, a wife at home, and this guy was into techno music. I was like, I feel like I'm that high, but I'm not. But this, like, is this situation real? It was real, but because I'd not even had any anaesthetic at that point. He'd not even injected me at that point. But it made me feel really relaxed. And the other 2 nurses were really nice as well. I was like, okay, Imogen, just breathe, you're okay. Then they put the mask onto me and bang, I was conked out. I woke up in the recovery room, and when I came round, I was high as a kite, as you can imagine. I remember waking up and the nurse was next to me, and she was like, oh, hi Imogen, like, you're in the recovery room, are you okay? Do you want me to get you some water? And I was like, so groggy, really just like not with it at all. And I basically said to her, do I have endometriosis? Did they find it? And I remember her being like, yes Imogen, they found endometriosis, they found a lot of it. And I literally just broke down in tears, and I was just sobbing. Like, honestly sobbing my heart out. I just remember me just crying. It was really, really emotional. And obviously I was high as well, so it just built up and I was like, shit, like, I kind of knew in my head that I had it anyway, but now someone's actually telling me you've got endometriosis. It's like, oh, all these things were running through my head. So I was bawling my eyes out. Then the gynecologist walked past and she basically came over and obviously the nurse had alerted her that I'd woke up. She said, right, Imogen, yes, you have got endometriosis. We basically, it was everywhere. We managed to get most of it off. And I was like, most of it? She was like, yeah. I'm not going to go into detail now because obviously you've just had a major operation. You're still high on anaesthetic, so I'll see you at your follow-up appointment, and that will be in about 6 to 8 weeks. So I was like, okay, so I've just been told I've got endometriosis. It's everywhere, and I was just like, oh, like, what am I gonna do? But of course, like, they're not gonna have a full-blown conversation with you while you're high. Like, you're not gonna remember anything that they say. No, the nurse said to me, "Oh, are you feeling okay? Can you feel anything?" Because obviously the pain relief, you're supposed to keep the pain relief up because you need to keep your strength up. You can't be sat there in pain. So I was like, I was kind of trying to move around, and she was like, stop moving around. And I was like, I can feel I'm still in pain. So she was like, right, okay, well, hang on a second, I'll just go and get you. I think she got some Oromorph, and then came back, and then she, like, you know, the one that they put in your mouth. So then after that, I had some water, and then I went back to the day surgery ward that I was on. By this point, it was about 6 o'clock-ish, and I basically was really worried about my boyfriend because all this time, since 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was still at the hospital. He had his laptop, so after he like went to the hospital coffee shop and was like just doing work and whatever. But I was like, oh my god, he needs to know that I'm like out of my thingy. So I started typing this text out, and then the nurse came to see me, and she said, right, okay, you need to, before you go, you need to make sure you go for a wee, because we need to make sure everything's working before you get released from hospital. And she said also, we want you to try and eat something. And I'd already brought like some fruit with me because I'm vegan, and I knew there wasn't going to be like, wasn't going to be any vegan options. Or I was thinking there's not going to be any vegan options, so I brought like some fruit and stuff. So I ate some fruit, and then by that point the nurse had notified my boyfriend, so Liam came in. So then I basically got discharged. I think it was about 7:30. Bear in mind that day surgery closes at like 7 o'clock, and I don't want to like put the situation down, but I did feel like I was rushed out of there, just because like there is day surgery, so that if you need to stay over, then you'll be moved on to a different ward. And I didn't necessarily need to stay over because there wasn't an issue or anything, but I did feel like they were trying to like kind of hurry me to be discharged from the hospital. I basically got my discharge note, and it didn't say anything. I've got it here. It's got all of my details on, so I'm not going to show you, but it didn't have anything about my stitches, like what kind of stitches they were, when I needed to take them out, whether I needed to take them out. Didn't have any of that information on, which I thought was really bad, because you've got stitches, you need to make sure the aftercare is right, basically. So they gave me some like bandage type things, not bandage, but like plaster, not, you know, like the dressings that you're meant to put on like surgical wounds. I left the hospital that night. I was in a taxi, and luckily the taxi driver that I had could see that I'd just had an operation, because I was like walking really slowly into the taxi and I looked like absolute shit, so he obviously realised that I'd been operated on. or something. So he was really careful, and he was driving extra slow. If we went over speed bumps, he was really slowing down. And that's another thing, like I would suggest, if you are going for the operation, then try and get somebody that you trust, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or like mum or dad, to take you, and just make them aware that they'll have to drive slowly to protect you, because everything will be hurting. Then as soon as I got home, my boyfriend helped me into bed. He got me a peppermint tea straight away, and the gas pain, as soon as I got out of the operation and like the anaesthetic had worn off, well, was wearing off, because it takes quite a while to wear off properly, but as soon as I could feel it wearing off, the gas pain started, and it's just unbearable. So I basically just made sure I kept on downing peppermint tea, green tea. I had like hot water bottles all around me. Hot water bottles are amazing. Just make sure you're really comfy, and make sure, like, before you go in for your operation, just make sure that your bedroom, because you're going to be there for like at least a couple of weeks just laying in bed resting, make sure you have everything around you that you need, and make sure you've got like plenty to watch, like TV wise, etc. You'll just feel a lot more like better, basically. I was taking what was I taking? Codridamol after my operation, and I was taking ibuprofen, like the stronger ones of ibuprofen, but then my mum came the day after my operation. She didn't plan to, but she was like, I just want to be there because I want to help you and Liam, which was a massive help, because I couldn't do anything. So Liam would have had to, me and Liam both work from home, so he would have had to not be working and helping me, and that's two people not working. So it was a godsend that my mum could come up for a couple of days. I had to ring my doctors and ask them basically what stitches that I had, because the day surgery it wasn't on the note. My mum called up the doctors because the painkillers weren't strong enough that I had, so I ended up having Zipain, I think I was given. I was really like dazed for about a week afterwards. I was just like completely dazed. I couldn't really for at least 6 days after my operation, I couldn't walk. I've actually written down, I've got like a bit of a diary of how I was post-op, so I don't know if this will be helpful, but I'll just read out. I haven't got the first 7 days for some reason on here, probably because I couldn't even write because I was so high, but I've got it from day 7. So day 7, stomach cramps, period pains, shooting pains in legs. Day 8, lower back pain all day, horrid shooting pains through the whole body. Day 9, stomach cramps on and off, lower back pain all day, hiccups for 7 hours. And I think that was because one of the types of medications that I was on, I think it was codeine. And also, one thing I would say with codeine, it certainly makes me really agitated and quite angry. So if you are getting those kinds of feelings, then I would definitely put it down to like any codeine based medication, because every time I have codeine I get really agitated, and nothing's even happening. I'm just agitated with myself, I'm agitated with other people. That's why I hate taking it, because I'm not like generally an angry person, but it just makes me agitated. Day 10, lower back pain when I was urinating. Couldn't sleep in any other position on my back, but my knees and ankle joints very sore, like a pulsating nerve pain. Okay, also I needed to mention this. I basically was put on antibiotics after my operation because one of the sides of my stitches came loose, and it looked completely different to the other side, and it was red, it was inflamed, it just looked completely different to the other side, and the other side looked really healthy. So I basically tried to get a doctor's appointment. There's no doctor's appointments. They got me one a surgery nearby, just like an emergency surgery, and the doctor saw me and didn't have a clue what to do with me. He wasn't that great, to be honest, and he was like, well, we'll put you on antibiotics just in case it is infected, which I don't think I needed antibiotics. I was going in there just to make sure the stitches didn't need restitching. I wasn't after antibiotics, and after 2 days of taking the antibiotics, I had horrendous joint pain. Like, my ankles felt like they were seized up, like when I was walking on them. It was horrendous, literally horrendous. And I think that was about a week after. Was that about a week after? A week and a bit after, I think. I ended up having to stop taking that antibiotics because it was agonising. The pain was agonising, so I just stopped taking those, and there wasn't anything else that was really badly wrong with it. It just looked really loose, like it looked like my stitches were coming apart. But obviously I got the reassurance from that doctor that he said, no, it doesn't look bad, like it's not like seeping or anything. And also I asked in that appointment when I did see my doctor what his opinion was with which stitches were used, and he couldn't tell me. He said most of the time they do use dissolvable stitches these days, but I can't like say for sure. So I still didn't know. This was like a week or so after my operation. I still didn't know what kind of stitches I had. I improved quite a lot about a week and a half after my operation. I started like moving about more and pottering around the house. But I also want everyone to understand, if you haven't had your laparoscopy yet, don't just take the doctor's word on recovery time, because I truly believe every single person is different. Like, it depends on how much endometriosis you've got, it depends on how much they've excised, it depends on your personal recovery time. Like, even if you've had like the tiniest bit of endometriosis removed, you could have a longer recovery time than somebody else. It just depends on your own body. Like, every single person's different. Things like having sex after your operation and that kind of thing, I think that everyone says this, but obviously even if you feel like you're okay on the outside, you got to remember that someone or some people have been inside your body, cutting at things, lasering things off inside your body, and obviously it takes a lot longer for your insides to heal than what's on the outside. So your stitches might look amazing and really fresh and clean, and they look like they're healing nicely, but you can't physically see inside your body. So definitely make sure you leave it as long as possible before like having sex or anything like that. And like exercise, make sure you feel ready to be able to do all of that. I think they say like 6 to 8 weeks after surgery that you can have sex, but obviously it's down to the individual. It's when you feel you're ready. Basically, my stitches ended up being dissolvable stitches. I ended up finally getting through to my surgeon's secretary, and she ended up telling me that she'd spoken to the surgeon, and basically that my stitches were dissolvable 2 or 3 days after 2 weeks post-op. It was like 2 weeks and 3 days after post-op. She basically said that if there was some stitches still left in, that I would need to have them removed. Now, I was going to Cornwall the week after, which I know that is ridiculous, like 3 weeks post-op going on holiday. And I wasn't expecting to do much, to be honest, but it was a family holiday and I was staying at my cousin's. It wasn't like I was in a hotel or anything. And I was also seeing my family that live in Australia as well, so it was really important to me that I'd go. I was actually okay. Like, I managed to do quite a lot of things. This was like 3 or 4 weeks post-op, but because of the stitches situation, and I don't advise anybody to do this is idiotic, but because of the stitches situation, I was going to be in Cornwall at that time, and I couldn't get into any doctors to be able to get them to take my stitches out. So I thought, right, okay, I'll just go to a surgery in Cornwall and I just have to have an emergency appointment. Now it came down to it, and my brother stupidly said to me, why don't you just take the stitches out yourself? Like, it's not going to be a big issue, just make sure everything's sterilised. So that's what I did, which is probably silly, but nothing thankfully went wrong. Like, me and my boyfriend sterilised everything and made sure everything was okay. Like, I literally had some little scissors and just snipped it and then just pulled it, and I'd had codeine. I was like, had a lot of pain relief anyway because I was in pain that day, so I didn't feel anything. It was fine. My stitches have been fine. Now it's October, so August, September, October, 3 months post-op, thereabouts, 3 months post-op, and I am basically, I'm still having a lot of symptoms of my endometriosis. The last 2 periods, the period after your laparoscopy is supposed to, people say sometimes it's like the worst. Some people say that their symptoms are amazing after the laparoscopy, they don't have any symptoms after the laparoscopy. Unfortunately for me, that wasn't the case. The last 2 periods that I've had have been probably the worst periods that I've ever had, and I'm still getting really bad symptoms from my endometriosis. Even during my ovulation period, I'm getting just the same symptoms as I was before. I had my post-op gynae appointment on Monday, this Monday just gone, with my gynecologist who did the surgery. She basically went through everything, and she said she was really disappointed at the fact that I was still experiencing symptoms, because she said a lot of ladies, they come out after their laparoscopy and they don't have any symptoms, which is amazing, but that wasn't the case for me. So she basically went through all of the options. She spoke about ProStap again, which I can't remember if I mentioned that before. I think I touched upon it, but basically it puts you in the temporary menopause, and I've also heard a couple of horror stories about them. I've also heard amazing things about them. My cousin had a really bad experience with them. I think it was those. Yeah, she absolutely hated it. Can you imagine going through the menopause at 25? Like, I mean, it's not going to be pleasant, is it? Like, my mum, the things my mum tells me, I don't want to be going through that now and then again at 50 plus. So no thank you. So I'm going to try and put that off for as long as possible. I'm going to try other options first. I'm going on the Yasmin pill, the contraceptive pill, which is a progesterone only, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's progesterone only. And basically I will take it for 3 months, come off, have a period, and then take it for 3 months. So I'll have about 4 to 5 periods a year. It will obviously slow down the growth of endometriosis drastically compared to having a period every month, but the endometriosis will still come back because it's not curable. They haven't found a cure for it. So unfortunately, this is going to be me until my next operation. I'm basically trying to experience everything that I can get my hands on to make my illness better. Basically I've looked into essential oils, aromatherapy. I'm not sure if that's going to work. Some people say it's incredible, it works for them. So I'm gonna document everything that I try. I've heard about CBD, which I have tried, but I haven't tried it properly. There's a MediPen that I want to get. I want to get a MediPen vape thing that basically is CBD oil, and you vape it, and it doesn't have any THC in, so it doesn't have the psychoactive part of the cannabis in. It's CBD only, so you won't get any of the effects of being high. It's literally just for the pain relief, and that's what I want to try next. I've ordered some aromatherapy oils, essential oils, so if you are interested in me documenting the story, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because I'm happy to kind of share my experiences, and hopefully it will help anybody else. I'm kind of treating myself as like a human guinea pig, and I'm just going to try everything I can until I can control this illness. And because I want to live a positive and happy life, and I want to be as healthy as possible even with a chronic illness. And I might look like I've got loads of makeup on and I'm dressed like this, but it's very easy to cover up how you're feeling, and that's what invisible illnesses are are like. Like, people, you might see someone in the street and think they are completely healthy, but they might have a chronic illness. You never know, do you? I feel like I've missed out things. If you want me to do like an endometriosis Q&A, then I'm happy to. Write down your questions in the comments section, and I'll be happy to film a Q&A. I'll also post it on Instagram as well, so I can get questions, and I will try and film that as soon as possible. If you like this video, give it a like. If you think it would be valuable, share it with your friends, share it in any endometriosis groups you may be a part of, and definitely subscribe if you're new. Thank you for subscribing if you're already a subscriber, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are amazing, and you'll get through this. Whatever you're going through, you'll get through this.